These are two airports serving the Los Angeles area that give Australians heading to Disneyland Resort completely different experiences. One forces you into a challenging journey through America's second busiest airport, while the other drops you just 14 miles from the happiest place on Earth, but comes with serious limitations that could derail your entire trip. For the hundreds of thousands of Australians who visit Disneyland and Disney California Adventure each year, this choice between Los Angeles International Airport and John Wayne Airport isn't just about convenience. It's about whether you prioritize getting there directly or getting there easily once you arrive. Let's start with the obvious winner for Australians. Los Angeles International Airport remains your only option for direct flights from Australia. 4 major airlines operate there, with Qantas, American Airlines, Delta Airlines, and United Airlines running 14 flights per week from Sydney alone. Those flight times clock in at 13 hours and 45 minutes, covering 7,490 miles. Most Australian travellers arrive at the massive Tom Bradley International Terminal. If you are flying from Melbourne or Brisbane, you have even more options opening up in 2025 and 2026. American Airlines launched 3 weekly flights from LAX to Brisbane in December 2025, while Delta introduced non-stop service to Melbourne that same month. This expansion means Australians now have up to 17 weekly flight options between the US and Australia during winter months. The aircraft serving these routes include Boeing 7879 Dreamliners, and until October 2026, some Qantas A380 services from Melbourne. Remember, as an Australian visitor, you will need your ESTA visa waiver authorization sorted before departure, which takes up to 72 hours to process. But here is where LAX starts showing its drawbacks. This massive airport spans 9 terminals and over 100 gates, making it a labyrinth for first-time visitors. What really matters for Disney-bound travellers is that LAX sits 40 miles from Disneyland Resort. That translates to roughly an hour drive without traffic, but Southern California traffic can stretch that journey to 90 minutes or more during peak times. The transportation costs from LAX tell the real story. A taxi will run you $100 to $150. Uber and Lyft typically charge $50 to $100 for standard rides, though during surge pricing, which happens frequently at LAX, that can jump to $151 or more. There is also a catch here. LAX rideshare pickup requires taking a shuttle bus from your terminal to a designated lot, adding time and hassle to an already expensive journey. Even rental cars at LAX come with complications. The rental car facilities are off-site, which means another shuttle ride before you can start your 40-mile drive to Anaheim. Factor in Los Angeles traffic, and you could be looking at 2 hours from landing to reaching your Disneyland hotel or Disney's Grand Californian Hotel. This is where John Wayne Airport starts looking attractive. SNA is the airport code, and it sits just 14 miles from Disneyland Resort in the heart of Orange County. The drive takes 20 to 25 minutes without traffic, and maybe 40 minutes at worst during rush hour. Transportation costs drop dramatically here. Uber rides typically range from $25 to $45, with some midday trips as low as $30. John Wayne Airport offers a completely different experience from the chaos at LAX. One Disney blogger says John Wayne still manages to be the best Southern California airport, whereas LAX has always been, and will always be, a pain and a mess. The airport stays compact and easy to navigate, and rental cars are located right at the terminal. No shuttle buses required. But here is the critical limitation that affects every Australian traveller. John Wayne Airport has no direct international flights to Australia. None. The airport only handles international flights to Mexico and Canada, and the Canadian service requires US border pre-clearance. No wide-body aircraft can even operate at SNA because of a 5,700-foot runway, which is the shortest in the United States that handles international flights. This creates a forced choice for Australians. You can fly direct to LAX and deal with the longer, more expensive journey to Disneyland Resort, or you can book a connecting flight from LAX to SNA and then enjoy the shorter, cheaper trip to the parks. That connection adds complexity, potential delays, and usually increases your total airfare. Some travellers also consider Long Beach Airport as an alternative connection point, though it is less commonly used. The price comparison reveals another layer of complexity. LAX typically offers more budget-friendly international flight options because of increased competition and volume. SNA domestic flights, while convenient, often carry premium pricing. However, savvy travelers realize that paying a bit more for the SNA connection often balances out when you factor in ground transportation savings. Consider the math here. If LAX ground transport costs $80 to $150 and SNA costs $30 to $45, you are saving $50 to $100 on transportation alone. For families, those savings multiply quickly, especially when you factor in the time saved. That is time that could be spent at Disneyland or Disney California Adventure, instead of sitting in Los Angeles traffic. Strict curfew hours at SNA can affect Australian travellers. Commercial departures are prohibited between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m., and arrivals are restricted between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. On Sundays, these restrictions extend to 8 a.m. Airlines face fines starting at $2,500 for violations, rising to $10,000 after 10 infractions. This 1985 curfew, established as part of a settlement agreement with local communities, seriously limits flight scheduling flexibility. If your LAX to SN connection is delayed, or if you are trying to catch an early morning flight home, you could find yourself stranded or forced to book alternative arrangements. The curfew exists because John Wayne Airport sits in one of the most noise-sensitive locations in the United States, surrounded by affluent residential communities in Irvine, Newport Beach, and Costa Mesa. The airport maintains some of the strictest noise rules in America, a legacy of the 1985 settlement agreement that keeps operations tightly controlled. For Australian families with children, the choice becomes even more complex. The shorter travel time from SN means less time in cars and more time for rest before hitting the parks. Kids who have just endured a 13-hour flight might handle a 25-minute drive much better than a 90-minute journey through Los Angeles traffic. LAX is undergoing massive infrastructure improvements that might tip the scales. The LAX People Mover, a $4.09 billion project, was originally scheduled for completion in 2023. It is now set to open in June 2026 to coincide with World Cup preparations. This automated train system will connect terminals to parking and rental car facilities, potentially reducing some of the airport's notorious hassles. The electric train system will run on 2.25 miles of elevated rail with 6 stations, operating around the clock with trains every 2 minutes during peak hours. The end-to-end journey will take just 10 minutes at speeds up to 47 miles per hour. This could significantly improve the LAX experience, though it does not reduce the 40-mile distance to Disneyland Resort. Current capacity limits also affect the SNA equation. Orange County has set the airport passenger limit at 11.8 million passengers per year through 2026, increasing to 12.5 million per year through 2030. With SNA already handling 11.3 million passengers yearly across 130 daily commercial flights, growth opportunities remain limited. The airport history adds interesting context to its current limitations. The original airstrip was built in 1923 when Eddie Martin leased land from James Irvine for a flying school. Howard Hughes used this location to set records, and the facility served as Orange County Airport until 1979, when it was renamed to honor John Wayne, who lived in nearby Newport Beach. For most Australians, the decision ultimately comes down to priorities. If you value simplicity and direct routing, LAX remains your only choice for international arrivals. The upcoming People Mover might ease some arrival hassles, and you will have maximum flexibility for flight scheduling without curfew concerns. But if you are willing to handle one domestic connection and want to minimize your ground transportation time and costs while enjoying a more relaxed airport experience, the LAX to SNA route deserves serious consideration. Just remember those curfew restrictions when booking your return flights. The choice between these airports reflects a broader travel philosophy. Do you optimize for the journey's beginning or its end? For Disney-bound families carrying luggage, strollers, and tired children, that 14-mile difference might matter more than any flight savings when you are trying to reach your Disney resort hotel.